Okay, really the same story as far as injuries, with Lamar doing some stuff, Amir doing some stuff, and tomorrow we'll put those two as well as Torrin through a good workout to see if hopefully all three of those guys play for us. Would help us on offense, defense, and special teams. As far as practice, thought it was good, although we missed some guys to make sure that they got to class today because of today being an abnormal day set up for us. So outside of that, I thought it was good. It was good for us to slow down, get out of the pads, and we're well ahead, but we still have a lot of work to do.
What is your overall assessment of the running game so far this year?
Up and down. Some good things in there. Very inconsistent. With all the the new players up front, new fullback, and then the rotations of the left guards. It's been very up and down. Not near enough explosive plays.
Sorry. How do you think Mark's done, Tyler?
He's done well. Obviously the fumble was a crushing time when that happened. Outside of that, he's done well, and he's still getting back into it. And I think he's there now. But as we played our last game 2 weeks ago, he still was a guy who missed all that training camp that everybody else would have had, kind of like a holdout. So I think he's at his best right now that he's been.
Did that show up in your mind in terms of watching film that he wasn't necessarily all the way back?
Yeah, I think it definitely shows up on film in the second half of games. That Arizona State game, he's doing some good things, but there's some touchdowns there. And that game completely changes. There's 2 or 3 runs right there. I think if he's fresh, if he's in great shape, our touchdowns. And obviously that completely changes the outcome of the game.
Looking for home runs from that position, or singles and doubles okay?
Well, we'd love for it to be home runs. We'd love to be, having guys averaging 7-8 yards a carry and a bunch of long runs. So we'd always take that. But yeah, we're lacking the the explosiveness in our passing games there right now, and it's not in our running game. And you feel that throughout the game, and that's why we've been more heavy throwing the ball, which we can't do that all year long. We'll get exposed if we keep trying to do that.
Are you pleased with how the running backs have responded in terms of just sharing time and how kind of crowded that position's getting? Are you excited about, or do you have any thoughts on how they've dealt with that attitude-wise?
I think they've been fine. I just think we're frustrated. This is not what, from the day we got here. I told you guys this is not what we wanted. We didn't want a system where there's new guys every week, and we're looking at a guy for something. We want it like it was before, and then for whatever reason, we can't get it to that point. There wasn't that point, I think, for the a couple of years we were gone too, and we'd love to get it back there.
What are your thoughts on Cal's defense? It was the base 3-4, which I don't think you haven't seen that yet.
Very, very complicated in what they do. Utah did a little bit of it, but very complicated in what they do. Not only do they play from 3-4 to bear to 4-3, but they put different players on the field by your personnel in their front seven. So really challenge you. Very NFL oriented. And you got to do a lot of work in your protection. So it's been good to have the extra time because they're very difficult to prepare for. And that's why, there's been times, over the last 2 years that they've really shut people down. Including home last year versus Oregon.
What have you seen out of their quarterback? I guess he's very good TD to INT ratio, but the completion percentage really hasn't been that.
Yeah, it hasn't. But what he does is he makes plays. If he gets outside of that pocket, especially to his left, he's got a chance. He's got ability to make plays, and he's played a lot of football now as you go back to Buffalo. So we've got to do a good job, and we haven't done real well. I'm shutting guys down. And guys have completed a lot of balls against us. So big focus this week of playing better in our coverage, getting better in our rush, and trying to shut somebody down.
Do you have a left-handed quarterback that you've been able to?
No, that doesn't really matter as far as the practice, anything like that. You just got to know your tendencies as far as, does he throw different?
Do you have any goals for the second half of the season after a bye?
And to win every game we play. That hasn't changed. Our goal is every game we go out, play really well, and win, and keep improving.
Is Andre Walker still in the mix here to play at right tackle? It seems like you're still pushing at that spot.
Yeah, actually, we were going to play him some more in the game last week in our game, and it was just going so smooth early, with all the touchdown drives and the conversions and everything that we left Kevin in there, and so we're still trying to push Kevin with him and bringing Andre along. And Andre's going to be a great player here eventually. unfortunately, it just hasn't happened yet.
Do you know what Andre's weight is these days?
I don't know that today. It changes every day.
Hey Lane, how much did you see Sarah High School when these three guys were there, and did they all jump out as guys who contribute right away?
Yeah, I didn't really watch them as much, as a group. It was really more individual with all the cut-ups and the evaluations of it. So, and then really didn't know offensively that much about Marquise early on. And so really just kind of came together. It wasn't something like right when we got here 2 years ago, we saw these three and said, wow, get them all together. We just kind of went through the evaluation period on them, and Robert and George have been more featured offensively early on in their careers, and so they popped out a little bit more. But then really Marquise's film early on his senior year on defense is what really was unbelievable. To see a receiver that was making huge hits and so many plays, and he could bend and he could make plays on the ball. It was phenomenal. I mean, it's a really, Tim and I were just talking about it. Think about it. There's only been, in the history of the school, there's only been 2 true freshman receivers starting over. And you guys are real interviewing both of them. They're right here as true freshmen, and true sophomore. There's only 2 ever. So, pretty cool.
When you look at the way an offense is structured, what makes a guy a number 1 receiver? I mean, is it skill, or is it also the way the offense is going?
I think all offenses are different in how they make them, and how they use their guys. Normally a number 1 is a lot of times a guy that can do everything, and so you really can put him wherever you want, like what we do with Robert. A smart player too, so that he can learn all those roles. Sometimes you have some kids that can't learn all that stuff. So a lot of it has to do with how smart they are and can they do everything, so they're not just a situational player.
How does that work? How do you distinguish them between the guy who's maybe getting the first reads, the way the play's designed, and somebody like Robert who is also obviously piling up big numbers?
Yeah, people do it differently. I think that we have an approach that once we find a number 1 guy, our offense really revolves around that guy. And that's why over the years, you go back to Mike with 81 catches and Dwayne with 95 catches, and Mike with 91. Those are gigantic numbers in what Robert's doing now, 55 through 5 games. And so once we find a guy, we're going to give him the ball. And it's just been our philosophy that if you have a great tailback, you turn and hand him the ball 25 times a game. And so if you have a great receiver, the last thing that we want to do is come out of a game and the guy touches the ball 4 or 5 times. So we just try to find ways to get him the ball and keep feeding him.
Does that make it harder when just everybody now knows that you're throwing the ball both for him, I guess, and for you guys?
It actually helps us out, because we see different coverages than most people do because of him, and because we feature him so much in so many different spots. It opens other people up. We've seen Randall Telfer catch a wide open touchdown in the game just because of double coverage. We've seen Marquise, get safeties cheated away from him, and so. As long as your quarterback's playing as well as ours is, and he takes advantage of that and sees it going on, it really helps us.
What about Robert's skill set allows him, though, to be able to catch 15 balls a game when everybody knows you can throw him 15 balls a game?
Yeah, that's why he's a number 1 receiver, because he can do everything. He can beat you deep, he can take the short passes, make guys miss, and he plays very physical. For a guy that's not real big, Marquise is bigger than Robert. Robert plays really, really physical, and he plays very aggressive in the run game too.
Given that Marquise's safety film, as you said, was so impressive, what was the thought process in making him a receiver instead of a safety?
Because he wanted to. It's recruiting. He'd be lining up at Oregon probably if we would have told him that he was going to DB. No, we just knew he could play either. And so when you have guys like that, as they come in, you let them do whatever they want. Because you want them to feel good about it, and then if it doesn't work out, then they move eventually. But obviously it worked out. You can notice right away how special he was.
Is that what you told DM?
Marquise told us the other story. He said, I was willing to, whatever the coaches wanted, that's what I was going to do.
And he would. He really would. If we would have, he's the type of kid, that's why he's so great. If we would have told him, hey, you're going to defense after he signed, then he would have done it. That's how he is. And he's a great kid. And, it's why we've started using him on special teams too.
Okay.